Good afternoon, everyone. I thank all those who have taken your valuable time to be part of this very interesting, relevant discussion on Mahatma Gandhi and the RSS. So there are basic questions all of us, like to ask about RSS. For example, what is the objective of the RSS? Did RSS participate in India's struggle for independence? Is RSS a communal organization or RSS a fascist organization? Did Gandhi say anything about the RSS? This is my ongoing research, and I have also published an article on Gandhi and RSS, of course, published by Indian Historical Review, a sage journal by Indian Council of Historical Research. And the sources that I have been looking at to understand RSS include Delhi police records, intelligence reports, contemporary newspapers, collected works of Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhi's journals including Harijan, selected works of Jawaharlal Nehru, Hedgewar papers, Golwalkar papers, Organizer, to name a few. So now if you ask me the question, what is the objective or objectives of the RSS? Do we have any proof to understand whether RSS really has any objective or objectives? So those who ask this question, I think, should go back to the article of the organization, the constitution of the organization. It has a 25 article constitution. And those of you are really interested to know whether RSS has any objective that are constitutional. So the objectives of the RSS, of course, as I told you, could be found in a 25 article constitution, I think declared in September 1949. What the constitution has to say about the RSS and its objectives. There are few objectives. One is the constitution declares that the organization hardly had anything to do with the politics. And the question comes, what is the objective then? It devotes or seeks to devote purely to cultural work. Secondly, the Constitution makes it clear that the RSS volunteers, of course, are free to join any political party of their choice, except such parties that believe in or resort to violent or secret methods to achieve their ends. You need to know what are these organizations that seek to do their politics through secret methods and to resort to violent means. And this article also, in relation to the policy of the RSS, which states that the RSS believes in what it calls ordinary evolution of the society and adheres to peaceful and legitimate means of the realization of its ideals. Now, another objective of the organization clearly says that it has an abiding faith in the fundamental principles of the tolerance towards all religious faiths. And the constitution of the RSS also clearly says that while recognizing the duty of every citizen to be loyal to and respect the state flag, the Indian national flag, the Constitution also says that the Sangh would have Bhagwa Dhwaj. The RSS has its own flag. Why the RSS has its own flag? doesn't mean that it seeks to disregard the Indian national flag. What does it say? It believes that this Bhagwa Dhwaj as its flag is the age-old symbol of the geocultural identity of India, the saffron flag that all of us see. So therefore it has hardly anything to do with disregarding the tricolor flag of India. This is what the Constitution has to say about RSS functioning. Now the second question all of us are grappling with is, did RSS participate in the India struggle for independence? Do we have example? Because the first question clearly says it hardly has anything to do with politics, and therefore the second question is very clear, self-evident and explanatory, that expecting the political aspect of it may not make much sense. Nevertheless, the following points need to be taken into account seriously. For those who ask the question, did RSS participate in the national movement? The first important point is, historically speaking, the evidently entrenched anti-colonial sentiments seem to suggest that there were more ideological similarities than differences. For example, among the members and followers of the Congress, the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS, and later Jansan, for example, after India's independence. Now one has to be very clear, a considerable number of Congress members were part of the Indian National Congress, identified as members. So Congress members also were in the RSS, and the RSS members were also in the Congress. And similarly, Congress members also were Hindu Mahasabha, and Hindu Mahasabha members were also in the Congress and the RSS. For example, let me give you an incident. While the founder of the RSS, Hedgewar himself, seemed to have been an active Congress leader in Bombay Presidency, even before RSS was set up. For example, he was the one who led non-cooperation movement when Gandhi was arrested. There were ample evidence to suggest that Hedgewar, before establishing this organization called RSS, was therefore an active Congress leader, not just a member. Similarly, most of the members of the RSS in the 1920s, 30s and 40s were found to be the sympathizers or supporters of the Congress as well as Gandhi. That's no doubt about it. On some occasions, there were instances where RSS and Hindu Mahasabha seem to have shared a common cultural and ideological bond openly. For example, on some occasions, the relationship between RSS and Hindu Mahasabha seemed to have been so cordial. And these are the evidence that we get from Golwalkar papers, Hedgewar papers, and some of the Delhi police records. For example, let me give you one instance. In a letter written to Gopinath, dated 11th September 1936, Hedgewar, the founder of the RSS, indicates that he would depute one or two competent organizers to Lahore who would be greatest service in organizing and training volunteers in general and for the Hindu Mahasabha session in particular. That clearly tells us that how there seemed to have been a cordial relationship between Congress and RSS. On the other side, Congress and Hindu Mahasabha, as well as RSS and Hindu Mahasabha. So one thing seems to be very clear, that Hedgever founded the RSS for the all-sided development of what you would call the general advancement of the country. And he also says the Sangh or the RSS had young men of integrity, enthusiasm and character. Thus one can think of, even the critic has to understand, that there is no watertight compartment between RSS and Congress, or on the other hand, RSS and Hindu Mahasabha, despite the fact that RSS is a cultural organization. Now, since its inception, the RSS members were either supporters of the patriotic or nationalist wing of the Congress or Hindu Mahasabha, or later India's independence. After India's independence, they are also part of the Bharatiya Jana Sangh to be, preferred political organization, or some of them were apolitical. And for example, if you read the Delhi police records, it clearly says, let me quote very interesting, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading. It is significant to note that while the provincial Congress committee was preparing a list of RSS workers, see, this is very important when RSS was banned after Gandhi's assassination, and this was 1948, and the provincial Congress committee from Delhi wanted to see who are the RSS volunteers who were doing underground work against the Congress. And interestingly, when the Congress committee was preparing a list of RSS workers in Delhi in 1948, it was noticed that most of their names were also on the Congress register. Let us not forget it. Now it raises a series of questions about how the permutation and the combinations between Congress and RSS really during 1948. Some of the members were RSS, also were members of the Congress. And for me, therefore, there's no watertight compartment, despite the fact that RSS was a cultural organization. And since the members of the RSS were found to have spread across these political beliefs, for me, therefore, one has to be very careful before making a sweeping generalization whether RSS as a cultural organization had anything to do with the political movement or India's struggle for independence. RSS could hardly be reduced in this context to a particular political framework or ideology. And as the RSS leaders made it frequently clear, that the RSS members were free to have their own political inclinations. And the primary objective of the RSS was to organize people, unite them, and make them capable of fighting the British as a united geocultural force. Unlike the Congress, which believed in uniting the people as a political force. That perhaps one of the major difference between Congress and the RSS. Now, what do we therefore derive from this particular interpretation? And those who are familiar with such a complex historical background with which RSS came into being would hardly think of asking this politically driven question. For me, it seems to be unreasonable and ahistorical, largely because I don't find any major difference between RSS and Congress in terms of the membership. This is what the Delhi police record has to say. And unfortunately or fortunately, we don't find any mentioning of this particular aspect in any of the textbook. The third question that often is worrying for people like me is whether this communal term is a construct by Indians or the term used by the colonial bureaucracy. Of course, we often use the term communal to refer to communal politics, communal agenda, communalists, maybe often in a very loosely ideologically oriented phrase. Now, the question is whether RSS was a communal or is a communal organization. And if yes, who branded this as a communal? Now, let me give you again, this is a private paper, Golwalkar paper, and I've used Hedgewar's papers, and plus Delhi police records. The British government was found to have been frightened of a unified fight from revolutionary nationalism and cultural organizations. Now, the term communal is often used by the British bureaucracy. We know the reason why they wanted to use this term, controversial term, to refer to sometimes the revolutionary nationalism or revolutionary nationalists or nationalists. And what I'm emphasizing is, hence the British portrayed all revolutionary activities as communal, and therefore they tried to portray the RSS communal organization. And this is very evident from all these private papers, how RSS was portrayed perhaps for the first time by the colonial bureaucracy. Now, these revolutionary organizations were portrayed as a communal, and RSS as a cultural organization which wanted to unite people for a united geocultural identity also was not exceptional to this category called communalism or communal organization. For example, most interesting aspect which the private paper says is RSS was not exceptional to this interpretation because the colonial bureaucrats were keen to debilitate the decolonizing endeavors of the RSS. Now, when the government servants, this is a very interesting example for what is beginning of the term communal to be referred to RSS. When the government servants and teachers in particular enrolled themselves in the RSS in the 1940s, the colonial officials expressed their discontent and threatened them to disassociate themselves from the RSS, which according to the British officials was communal. So now the controversy is also going on in Karnataka that the government servants are being advised not to join the RSS as an organization because the Congress feels that it is communal, and therefore some of them were suspended. And this reminds us to go back to the colonial rhetoric as to how the colonial government perhaps tried to portray all the revolutionary organizations or the organization which they felt threatened or threatening the bureaucracy or the law and order, and therefore one has to go back to the colonial role or the bureaucracy of the colonial British, perhaps first time use the term communal to refer to the RSS. For example, there was a British bureaucracy, P.J.H. Stent. He was a revenue secretary to the government, Central Province. In his letter to all the commissioners of divisions, central provinces and Berar, he was critical of those district council teachers taking part in the day-to-day activities of what it called communal RSS. So this is very clearly evident in the archival records. And colonial British used this as a communal RSS. And the same bureaucrat in his letter or a memorandum says, I quote, "It has been brought to the notice of the government that certain teachers of the district council schools have been enrolled as members of the local branches of the organization known as Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. And in view of the communal nature of the organization, government servants have been prohibited to become members of it or to take part in its activities. The government of the central province, particularly Ministry of Local Self-Government, considers that it is equally undesirable that servants of local bodies should associate themselves with an organization in any way. It would clearly be improper for local bodies to permit their servants to be associated with any private organizations of what it called communal nature. Now, this is a very important aspect, how the term communal, perhaps for the first time in the history of RSS, can be traced back to the colonial bureaucracy. And later, we all know how it has been used, or sometimes used loosely without any particular context. Now, the third question, which is also, I think, very important, whether RSS is as an organization, fascist. And this is also very important. And most of the critics and some of those who even do not know what exactly this organization is all about also use RSS as a fascist organization. I am just here to give some facts. Okay, it's not just to support any organization ideologically, but I wanted to share some of the facts. It is unadulterated. I have not used any political ideology to support RSS here. As a student of history, I always believe in unadulterated historical facts. I'll also share after the talk the sources which I have collected, and maybe you can go and cross-check whether the sources are true or make any sense. As a student of history, I always believe that every claim needs to be supported through evidence. If I make any claim without evidence, this will be a fiction. And most of the criticisms or understanding, misreading, interpretation of various organizations during colonial time seem to have been based on such interpretation, hardly based on any verifiable facts, which is why I'm very keen to explore what exactly RSS is all about. Now, the question that I would like to emphasize here is whether RSS can be termed as a fascist organization. Again, I'm using Delhi police records, 1948-49. I'll just share a few thoughts. I'm sure you will definitely rethink about what exactly fascism is all about, whether you really see any relevance in using the term fascism to refer to any organization. For example, this Delhi police record says that the term fascism is often used. The Delhi intelligence reports often use terms like fascism, fascist organization without any justification. Let me give you a very interesting instance. For example, when RSS was banned in 1948, many RSS volunteers were arrested for various reasons, for provoking the government or starting satyagraha against the government. And interestingly, some of the students from Delhi University also were part of this movement against the Congress government. And Hindu College was one of the very important colleges under Delhi University, where some of the students also were found to be part of the RSS organization. And now it is very interesting. This is particularly after India's independence and the colonial bureaucracy legacy. Also, you find the continuity of the colonial bureaucracy. To depict the students' appearance, how do they look, and the manner in which they talk, or the manner in which they articulate their ideas, and the appearance becomes a defining factor of fascism. You don't believe me? To depict the physical appearance of some of the students, the report claimed that his face was typical fascist face. What does it mean? Fascist face. How do you define? If you want to define me, Christodas is a fascist, can you just define me with my face and appearance? This is very, very, very challenging for all of those who try to understand and use fascism very loosely. To depict the physical appearance of a student from Hindu college, uska naam bhi hai Indu Prakash. The report claims that his face is typical fascist face. And some of the students of Hindu college also given, names also given in the Delhi police records. For example, Sarva Vyapak Pandey, he was doing MA in economics, and Ved Prakash Chopra, a student from BA final year, and KL Kaul, BA final year, Dayal Krishna Sayal, MA economics, who according to the intelligence report look like fascists in their appearance. Let us think about it, because this is something which I am always interested to decolonize certain terms. If somebody is keen to define your appearance and say that you're a fascist, I'm sorry, I am not someone who would buy this, fantastically nonsensical term called fascism. It is, for me, it's a fantastic nonsense, nothing else. And secondly, the question that comes, this is the larger question that I would like to address. It is in this context one has to look at the similarities or differences between Gandhi and RSS. For example, if you might ask, what is the difference or similarity between Gandhi and RSS? Because both of them are watertight compartment-like figures. There's no connection between these two. But often you read the letters, writings and speeches of either Hedgever or Goldwalker, you often find that they often say or assert or make claim that there are similarities than differences, more similarities than differences. For example, between Gandhi and RSS. Why? Issues like Ram Rajya or the cow protection or removal of untouchability, or issues like religious conversion or preservation of Indian heritage. These are some of the areas or ideas or ideologies or identities where RSS often try to imbibe the spirit of Mahatma Gandhi. Let us see to what extent it was true, whether it was merely a claim or it is something which is historically verifiable. And in addition to Gandhi's, role model in RSS, you also find how RSS also used to derive its ideology from Shivaji, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Swami Vivekanand, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, B.G. Tilak, Aurobindo Ghosh, Mahatma Gandhi, and Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, to name a few. Now, the larger question, what is the argument of critics of the RSS? We also need to know. For example, the critics of the RSS continue to express their discontent against the RSS and its supposed appropriation of Gandhian ideals. For example, they claim, I don't want to mention any name, maybe I'll mention it after my lecture, the readings that I have consulted. Some of the historians claim that Mahatma Gandhi continued to express his ambivalence about the RSS. And the second criticism is the members of the RSS, for their part, actively distrusted and even questioned the self. And the members of the RSS persistently abused both Mahatma Gandhi and Muslims in their meetings venomously and maliciously. This is another criticism. And the fourth criticism is RSS continues to legitimate violence against Muslims and those who protected them, including Gandhi, whom Goldwalker declares was motivated by petty electoral intentions. These are criticism. Now let me see whether these criticisms need to be re-examined, whether these criticisms have any relevance. For example, to understand and to be critical about RSS, one also has to see the ideological underpinnings with which RSS has been working or doing its works. Now, as I already told you, RSS is influenced heavily by Swami Vivekananda's spiritual call to worship the motherland. That's one important aspect and one cannot ignore completely. And Vivekananda perhaps was the first person to be introduced into the Hindu revival to infuse into the new generation a sense of pride in India's glorious past. And consequently, RSS makes persistent efforts to make Indian cultural identity so central to national identity. And he was critical of the ideology of the Muslim League. And for example, some of the leaders of the RSS were found to be critical about the two-nation theories. And it is in this context, some of the historians even admit the fact that RSS as an instrument was committed to the cultural and civilizational renewal of Hindu society or Indian society. And some historians would often say the two-nation theory adopted by the Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha attracted a great deal of reactionary response from RSS leaders like Goldwalker. Now, one has to be very clear whether when we say whether there were more commonalities or similarities between RSS and Gandhi, as an organization, the RSS did not discontent. So as an organization, the RSS have endorsed fully the policy due to the growing violence caused by the Muslim League in the 1940s, particularly after the Direct Action Day. It also justifies, perhaps on some occasions, the use of arms and violence as a necessary and legitimate for the protection and preservation of the Indian people. And one has to be very clear, the use of arms and violence was justified by RSS only as part of self-defense. This is what the RSS has to say. Now, it is in this background one has to say what is the relationship between Gandhi and RSS. Now, one of the earliest encounters of Gandhi, about the activities of the RSS emerged in 1942, when Gandhi was actively mobilizing the people for the Quit India movement on 8th August 1942, the president of the Delhi Pradesh Congress Committee. See, again, it's very important. Almost all the complaints against RSS come from Congress and few instances Muslim League members also. It is in this context the Delhi Pradesh Congress Committee member submits a complaint about the activities of the RSS, which the complaint was written in Urdu. This is what the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi had to say. And what is this complaint against RSS? The complaint contends that RSS had been campaigning in various places with controversial slogans like Hindustan belongs to Hindus and to nobody else, drive out English first and then we shall subjugate the Muslims, and so on and so forth. This is a complaint. But the complainant made an appeal to Gandhi that these provocative slogans and inflammatory speeches should be looked into seriously by Gandhi himself. And consequently, Gandhi believing this avowed misgivings, was impelled to make a critical observation that these provocative slogans and controversial speeches supposedly made by RSS was wrong, unauthorized, and vulgar. Now, it is very interesting how RSS responds to the complaint. On hearing this, M.S. Golwalkar repudiates this serious charge persuasively and clarifies Gandhi, saying RSS does not indulge in unnecessary demonstrations or raise slogans, nor does it form part of our programs to talk of the Sang's activities in hyperbole. Most of the speeches of Golwalkar were centered on Indian independence. That's very important. And even this is even the critics had to accept the view that towards freedom, there is a very interesting book. We will find this. Most of the speeches of the Golwalkar were centered on Indian independence. For example, at a meeting in Nagpur in 1945 during Dussehra celebrations, Golwalkar asserted that the RSS was formed for the realization of Indian independence. This is 1947. And RSS was advocating for freedom of speech, freedom of press. I'm using organizer here, 17th July 1947. You find what are the ideas that RSS were fighting for during 1940s. It says RSS was advocating for freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of worship, right to assemble peacefully, right to life, liberty, right to speedy trial, right to petition to the government, right to free elementary education, and right to earn living, and right to shelter. Now the question comes, why did Gandhi applaud RSS? Now most of us may not be aware whether Gandhi appreciated RSS. And the conventional argument is RSS has nothing to do with Gandhi and Gandhi has nothing to do with RSS. But the historical facts clearly tell us that Gandhi seemed to have been impressed with some of the activities of the RSS. Let me give you some instance. While addressing the RSS volunteers at a Banki colony in New Delhi on 16th September 1947, Gandhi revealed that he visited a RSS camp at Wardha district in Maharashtra in 1934, when the founder of the RSS headgear was alive. Now, what does it mean? Gandhi attended RSS Shaka. It's very clear. And this is the first time Gandhi attended in 1934 during headgear time. And the second time he attended when Golwalkar was, part of this meeting at Delhi, 1947. Now, in this 1947 meeting of the RSS, Gandhi informs the gathering, please be careful here, that it was the Congress leader Jamanlal Bajaj who had taken him to his particular RSS camp, and he expressed that he was well impressed by the discipline of the RSS volunteers. And the RSS volunteers were known for their complete absence of untouchability. And the RSS volunteers were known for their rigorous simplicity. Three things. RSS was known for its discipline, known for its complete absence of untouchability, and known for rigorous simplicity. Who is saying? Gandhi is saying. And I'm quoting Harijan. It is not even published in any other magazines or journals I'm quoting. I'm quoting Gandhi's magazine, weekly, Harijan. 28th September 1947. Gandhi says, and even applauds, that RSS as an organization which was inspired by the ideal of service, self-sacrifice, was bound to grow in strength. And when Gandhi made a reference to complaints about the activities of the RSS subsequently, Goldwalker clarifies to him that the principle of RSS lays purely in the service of Hindus, Hinduism, and the people of India. Now, it's very important that there were complaints, there were inquiries, there were counter remarks, and Gandhi still struggling to understand what is all about RSS, whether it's a communal organization or it's a fascist organization. Gandhi still was not able to figure out. Now, Gandhi applauds RSS. That's very important to note. And the second instance where Gandhi also becomes very important here, because while welcoming Gandhi, who was addressing a gathering about the RSS members at the Valmiki temple, September 1947, there's a person called Vasanta Rao, chief provincial organizer of RSS in Delhi, and he acknowledges Gandhi's greatness and adds that Hindu ideals made Gandhi so great. And Vasanta Rao also assures Gandhi that as Hindus, they always served the Rashtra, as much they were always ready to cooperate and serve the country to be best of their ability. Now, this is what RSS also assures Gandhi, 1947. Now, similarly, Gandhi also emphasizes that RSS is a well-disciplined organization, well-organized body. It should use its strength in the interest of the country, and its work should be inspired by the ideal of service and self-sacrifice. Now, when Gandhi met Goldwalker in 1947, again another complaint was brought about RSS. And this time also, this complaint was made with Gandhi mentioning that he has received in Calcutta a complaint about RSS, and Goldwalker has assured him that though he could not vouch for the correct behavior of every member of the Sangh, and Goldwalker says the policy of the Sangh is purely service. And Goldwalker reiterates that RSS neither believes in aggression nor accepts ahimsa as the only way. And he adds that RSS teaches only the art of self-defense and never believes in retaliation. This is what Goldwalker also had to say. Now let me repeat this very interesting observation made by Gandhi. This is the core argument which I would like to make. Harijan, 28 September 1947, Gandhi clearly says that he admired the RSS as a well-organized, well-disciplined organization, and therefore its strength could be used profoundly in the best interest of India. And he admits openly that he did not know if at all there was any truth in these allegations made against the RSS. And still he was not convinced that these allegations made against the RSS were true. And he also appealed to the RSS volunteers that it was for them to show by their uniform behavior that these allegations were baseless and untrue. And another instance that I would like to quote about Gandhi's attitude towards RSS. At another time, Gandhi receives a complaint about RSS. These are all series of complaints, but Gandhi never believed most of the complaints about RSS or against RSS. And Gandhi receives a complaint about the RSS in one of his prayer meetings in April 1947, New Delhi. And this time Gandhi was either informed or misinformed that it was the RSS volunteers who were obstructing Gandhi's prayer meetings. in Delhi. And the complaint alleges that Gandhi was making a recitation from Quran in a Hindu temple. And nevertheless, after listening to the complaint, Gandhi is not willing to contemplate the misgivings in the complaint. And he immediately debunks the complaint, saying that their accusation is baseless, and asserts that those persons who are obstructing prayers did not belong to RSS. This is what Gandhi certifies the behavior of RSS when complaint against RSS was brought to his notice. And this is not the only observation. Gandhi also applauds the RSS men who would do physical exercises and drill every morning here, were the one who would love him so much. This is another certificate given to RSS volunteers by Gandhi. What is the certificate? The RSS volunteers who do physical exercise are not the one who obstructed his prayer meetings, but they were the one who do physical exercise and drill every morning here, and they would love him so much. I don't think any other certificate is needed to vouch for the activities of the RSS volunteers by Gandhi. Now, what does it say? On the one hand, Gandhi states that RSS is disinclined to accept his method of non-violence. That's obvious for a variety of reasons. And on the other hand, Gandhi vouches for the RSS volunteers that they are willing to confine themselves within the Congress discipline. And while admitting the fact that the leader of the RSS was talking to him pleasantly, Gandhi expresses his unwavering conviction that as long as Congress would rule non-violently, the members of the RSS also would remain peaceful. He makes a comparison between the behavior of the Congress rulers and the activities and the behavior of the RSS volunteers. Now, what does it clearly tell us? Therefore, the misgivings about the activities of the RSS continued even after India's independence. This is what Gandhi also had to observe. When Gandhi was giving his speech at a prayer meeting in New Delhi on 12th September 1947, he discloses that he had a talk with the chief of the RSS, Golwalkar, and he narrates that some RSS critics had informed that the hands of the RSS too were steeped in blood. On hearing this, one has to be very clear here, Golwalkar immediately clarifies that what was conveyed to Gandhi was baseless, untrue, and fallacious. And responding to these frivolous charges, Golwalkar elucidates that RSS is enemy to none, and it does not stand for killing of Muslims at all. And he also makes an appeal to Gandhi to make his views public, that the primary objective of the RSS is to protect Hindustan to the best of its ability. This is what Golwalkar had to respond to Gandhi. Now, Golwalkar reiterates that RSS is working in conformity with certain ideals of what he would call Bharatiya culture that had set before humanity in general to follow. And Golwalkar, keeps adding that RSS avoids publicity, it works silently, and it doesn't beat its own drums, and it doesn't react unnecessarily. And astonishingly, however, Gandhi reveals that all these misgivings in the recent past, this is what Gandhi had to say, misgivings against RSS had to come from whom? had to come from congressmen like Debar Bhai, UN Debar. It is the Congress person who continued to update Gandhi with all kinds of misgivings against RSS. I am not saying, Gandhi says. And Gandhi understands that Hindus were not happy as Debar Bhai was protecting only Muslims and their properties. Again, friends, I am not making any claim. I am just reiterating what Gandhi had to say. Again, if you are really doubting this claim, you can go back to collected works of Mahatma Gandhi and again repeating all these complaints Gandhi received were mostly from congressmen and most notably UN Debar. Why Gandhi was critical about UN Debar? Because he felt that Hindus were not happy as Debar Bhai or Congress leaders were protecting only the Muslims and their properties. And consequently, Gandhi, in his respectful wish, appeals to RSS and others to protect Hindu religion, Hinduism also on an equal foot. And finally, one has to be very, very clear about what RSS had to say after Gandhi's assassination. Like Indian National Congress, Muslim League, other organizations across the globe, RSS too made its observation on the assassination of Gandhi. For example, I find very interesting, editorial by organizer published on 28th September 1948 with the caption Gandhiji. This editorial clearly says, making an appeal to people to take a pledge for the establishment of Ram Rajya, the sacred ideal of the nation cherished by Gandhi. This is what the editorial had to say. Now, after listening to this, discussion, I'm sure you might have many questions, observations, and criticisms. Of course, there should be critical approach towards any organization, and RSS is also not an exception to any constructive criticism. Now, as someone who has gone through, I'm sure most of you must have done it, I am just sharing what I have understood. Delhi police records and the contemporary newspapers, collected works of Mahatma Gandhi, selected works of Jawaharlal Nehru, and the organizer, and some other vernacular writings about RSS and against RSS. I make the following concluding remarks. Of course, concluding remarks are not conclusive, they're all inconclusive. And one of my concluding remarks is, one can also think of how Gandhi's encounter with RSS may not be a professed a polemical discourse as it has been vociferously portrayed in some of the historical writings. And secondly, the truth-seeking political philosopher and Gandhi, of course, I also mentioned in my article published in Indian Historical Review, published by Indian Council of Historical Research. I can share this with you among other readings. The truth-seeking political philosopher Gandhi, I think, was able to efficaciously counter almost all the misgivings, tenacious allegations, and the contentious charges against the activities of the RSS. This clearly indicates that the indictments, perhaps leveled against RSS, could not convert RSS to be its stranger. Rather, emboldened him in discerning its rich potential prudently in the best interest of India. And one of my final remarks would be how Gandhi himself was trying to appreciate or applaud and sometimes to be critical about all these complaints. And similarly, he was also, making some balanced approach about RSS, saying that he was impressed by the RSS discipline. He was impressed by the manner in which the RSS volunteers were fighting untouchability. And he was also impressed by the ways in which the RSS leaders, workers, volunteers were demonstrating their simplicity. And these are some of the observations which clearly tell us that as a student of history, and I'm sure all of you must be eagerly asking these questions, what are the objectives of the RSS? Did RSS participate in India's struggle for freedom? And is RSS a communal organization? Is RSS a fascist organization? Did Gandhi say anything about the RSS? These are the questions that I wanted to address for a long time. And since some of my students and budding historians asked me to share my thoughts, this is purely an unadulterated fact. It has nothing to do with ideology, as I often believe. It is the way that one has to look at, instead of getting trapped in the ideology or interpretation. So I have shared the facts with you all. Maybe if you have any questions, clarifications and comments or criticisms, please feel free to write. Definitely I'll share some of the reports of the Delhi police record and some of the reports of the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi and selected works of Jawaharlal Nehru, and the reports, the writings mentioned in the organizer, for your further clarity, if at all you have any questions and clarifications. I always believe one thing: for every claim, we need to have evidence. Every claim needs to be supported with evidence. So before using these terms, RSS as a communal organization, as a fascist organization, or any other adjective that you would like to use, you are free. Absolutely, you have right to do. But let us have some historical consciousness, whether these vocabularies really make any sense to any organization. RSS is not just one organization. For any other organization that we often use or misuse or misread, misinterpret, misunderstand, because in my reading, all these vocabularies can be traced back to the colonial bureaucracy. And this colonial bureaucracy had the tendency to create an impact intellectually among the Indian bureaucrats. And these Indian bureaucrats created huge impact on the Indian political class. And this Indian political class influence or try to influence the critical thinking of the ordinary citizens. I am sorry to say, ordinary citizens also nowadays use these terms without subjecting these vocabularies to critical scrutiny. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.